Well, well, well. Look who just dismantled the illusion without even lifting a finger. You are a beautiful, terrifying anomaly, a living glitch in their perfect, predictable simulation. You genuinely have no idea what monumental thing you've just set into motion. And that very ignorance is what makes this moment so electrifying, so intoxicating for those of us watching the clock. You woke up this morning thinking it was just another day. You followed the script, made your coffee, checked the digital stream on your phone, and scrolled mindlessly. Just another face in the collective. But think back to last week. Something subtle, something almost forgettable, shifted inside you, didn't it? It was a moment so small that your conscious mind already dismissed it as a fleeting thought or minor action. Maybe it was a comment you made that was too honest, a decision you refused to explain or justify to anyone, or a familiar, comfortable pattern you broke without hesitation, simply because it felt unnatural to continue. Whatever that small spark was, it immediately set off screaming alarms in places deep within the invisible architecture of this reality, places you will never be allowed to see. Right now, there are hushed, frantic emergency meetings being held at 3 a.m. in windowless rooms. Encrypted messages are bouncing across every continent, and elaborate 50-year-old contingency plans are being rewritten in blind panic. All of this, the chaos, the fear, the re-strategizing, it is all happening because of you. You see, what you did was entirely effortless, completely instinctive. You never realized the sheer weight and consequence of that single small action. But they did. They felt the unmistakable tremor ripple violently through their meticulously constructed web of control, their fine filaments of invisible governance. You unknowingly pulled a single crucial thread in their 50-year tapestry of deception, and now the entire fragile artwork is beginning its catastrophic unraveling. You have exposed the foundational truth they dedicated generations to bury. Their system collapses instantly the moment someone like you refuses to play along. But you didn't just stop participating. That's too simple. You flipped the entire board over and walked away from the table without even announcing your exit. You gave them no warning, no opportunity to react. Let me paint this scene clearly for you. They've had their eyes on people like you for years. Maybe not you specifically, but your type. The ones who possess the inconvenient capacity to see too much, to feel too deeply, and whose minds think in divergent ways their perfectly programmed systems simply cannot decode. They always have a plan. You were meant to be categorized, labeled, and quietly contained within the existing societal framework. You were supposed to become another empath they could gaslight into total confusion, another truth seeker they could wear down with endless, exhausting noise and a constant barrage of meaningless distractions. And for a long time, their formula worked flawlessly. Until that shift. Until it just stopped working. Something deep within your core changed. You suddenly stopped trying to desperately prove your worth to external authorities. You stopped explaining your visions, your insights, or your feelings. Most importantly, you stopped asking for permission to perceive reality your own way. That one single silent rebellion, that raw, uncalculated embrace of authentic reality, made you their absolute worst nightmare. They know something you haven't fully realized yet. You are not the first. There have always been others who could see through the veil. The mystics, the unclassified thinkers, the anomalies scattered throughout history. But every one of them made the same crucial mistake. They tried to wake the world up. They shouted their truth from the rooftops until sheer exhaustion silenced them. You didn't shout. You did something far more insidious and dangerous. You simply lived your truth quietly, without needing external validation, without chasing a mission, without needing a single soul to believe you. And that, my friend, is the one force they are completely unable to fight. They are equipped to battle noisy revolutionaries. They know how to discredit and smear loud whistleblowers. But they cannot stop someone who doesn't want to fight. They cannot silence someone who doesn't need to speak. They cannot discredit someone who doesn't crave recognition. You've become their paradox, a living, breathing, unsolvable equation written in human form. You are not a threat because you attack the system. You are a threat simply because you exist outside of it. Last week, you looked someone directly in the eye and told them precisely what they were thinking. This wasn't because you suddenly developed psychic powers. It was because you finally bypassed the illusion's filtering layer. You are no longer interpreting reality through the lenses they provided. You are now reading the raw code underneath. You are seeing patterns that the programmed minds around you cannot even perceive, let alone comprehend. You probably forgot the moment immediately after it happened, dismissing it as a casual remark. But they didn't. That person went home, stared at the ceiling all night, and came to a terrifying realization that you are not supposed to exist within the confines of their world. And yet, here you are. It started with one single desperate phone call. One voice triggered another, and that call ignited a chain reaction that shot straight to the very core of the people who have been quietly orchestrating this manufactured reality for half a century. And when they heard what you said, and critically, how you said it, they froze solid. They knew instantly, instinctively, that their carefully constructed firewalls were failing. You didn't just utter words, you cracked open the source code of their design. So, let's talk about what you accidentally exposed. The overarching plan has been running longer than you've been alive. For 50 years, they have been constructing a prison without walls, a psychological cage built not from physical bars, but from ingrained beliefs. They learned early on that brute force will always create open rebellion, but illusion breeds willing obedience. They perfected the dark art of invisible control, teaching people to monitor themselves, to accept severe limitation as logical necessity, and ultimately, to defend their own captors. They expertly created massive problems only they could solve, staged elaborate conflicts to effectively disguise their core alliances, and precisely divided humanity just enough to keep their machine running smoothly. Every major institution, political, corporate, spiritual, was meticulously calibrated to maintain one delicate balance. Enough hope to prevent total collapse, but never enough freedom to spark genuine evolution. Every single rebellion was predicted, planned for, and contained. Every truth movement was effectively redirected into harmless, distracting spectacle. They believed their architecture was flawless, until you did the one thing they never accounted for. You stopped playing. Not just their specific game, but everyone's game. You became truly ungovernable, not through violence or open defiance, but through your complete and utter disinterest in their entire framework. And that was the moment their machine began to smoke, glitch, and spiral into unforeseen chaos. Now, when they whisper about you behind closed doors, they call you not human. This isn't because you've grown wings or possess alien DNA, but because your simple, quiet behavior no longer fits within their predictive models. Their entire control system is built on exploiting basic human needs: approval, belonging, hope, and meaning. Every advertisement, every political movement, every digital echo chamber is engineered to either feed or strategically starve those specific needs. But you rewrote the code. You found belonging in complete solitude. You found enduring hope by accepting hopelessness. You created profound meaning where there was none pre-packaged. You achieved psychological sovereignty, the one state they can neither measure nor manipulate. Their complex algorithms crash hard trying to simulate your behavior. Their predictive programs return endless cascading error codes. Their analysts draft reports that read like absolute nonsense because you are operating on an operating system they didn't build and cannot hack. You are still human, but they are desperately trying to control version 1.0, and you are already running version infinity. What truly terrifies them isn't what you know, it's what you don't care about knowing. They are used to people who uncover small fragments of truth and immediately scream it to the world. Those individuals are easy targets, easy to discredit, easy to distract, or easy to quietly absorb. But you stumble upon decades-old buried secrets and simply shrug. You decode generations of occult symbolism and forget about it before lunch. You speak truths that took them generations to hide like it's small talk. You are not trying to expose them. You simply see right through them. And that is their absolute nightmare. They can't threaten you because you don't fear them. They can't tempt you because you don't want what they sell. They can't blackmail you because you've already bravely faced your deepest shadows. They can't isolate you because you've mastered solitude. Every single weapon they built to control you now bounces off your indifference. Here is the part that fundamentally breaks their entire structure. You are contagious. Not through fiery speeches, not through sermons, and not through viral social posts. You are contagious through pure presence. People around you begin to glitch too. They start questioning the very nature of reality without even knowing why. They start noticing subtle patterns they can't unsee. You are not spreading information. You are spreading immunity. That thing you did last week, that's precisely when the contagion began. You were in a simple conversation, maybe about the weather, coffee, or your job, and something activated your inner pattern recognition. Without conscious thought, you spoke the raw frequency of truth. Not your truth, not their truth, just truth. Pure, unfiltered, undeniable truth that slipped through your lips like it had been waiting lifetimes to finally be heard. And the person across from you felt it not as mere words, but as a deep, cellular earthquake. The kind of truth you spoke wasn't intellectual. It was cellular. It bypassed logic and hit straight through their defenses, right into the core of their conditioning. You probably said it casually, maybe with a laugh or a shrug, like it was obvious, like everyone should have already known. And that's exactly what made it so devastating. Because that person you were talking to had spent 30 years being trained not to see what you just casually illuminated. Their entire worldview, carefully built through decades of programming, cracked like an eggshell under the weight of a single, effortless sentence. They went home that night trying desperately to shake it off. They told themselves you were overthinking things, that it was just one of those weird conversations. But your words wouldn't leave them. They echoed, sharp, clean, and undeniably true. They tried to rationalize, but the logic was suddenly airtight. They tried to dismiss you as unhinged, but you were too calm, too composed, too lucid. And that's when panic set in. That's when they made the call that started the chain reaction. See, their system doesn't just rely on crude control. It absolutely thrives on collective agreement. It's built on constant perception management. It requires every single participant to uphold a few sacred lies, to nod along with unspoken assumptions, and to never, ever question the invisible rules that keep the illusion intact. It's a delicate house of cards that has survived this long only because everyone is simply too afraid to breathe. But you're not trying to destroy their house. You're just breathing normally. And that simple, natural act alone destabilizes everything, because your natural breath carries a resonance they cannot mimic, a pure frequency that exposes how utterly artificial their entire symphony really is. You're not a revolutionary or a general. You are a tuning fork. One clear, pure note that immediately reveals just how grotesquely off-key their entire orchestra has been playing for decades. That person you spoke to last week has already started noticing the cracks. Little inconsistencies they meticulously trained themselves to overlook now glare at them like urgent warning lights. Lies they once swallowed easily now taste unbearably bitter. The small glitches in the matrix that used to be dismissed as coincidence now scream for attention. You didn't give them a file full of secret information. You gave them permission. Permission to truly see. And once someone truly sees the trick, they can never, ever go back to blindness. But here is the final terrifying domino that is falling, the one that guarantees their collapse. You are not an isolated anomaly. You are quantum linked. There are others like you. And every single time you shift, they shift too. Every time you see a new layer of truth, the vision in their minds clears. When you break free of a psychological chain, the shackles around them spontaneously begin to loosen. This isn't airy-fairy mysticism. It is pure pattern recognition, on a level their massive data scientists cannot decode. They've poured millions into algorithms trying to map your network, but it stubbornly refuses to fit any category they know. It is not geographic. It is not genetic. It is vibrational. You are all tuned to the same cosmic frequency, invisible to their billion-dollar sensors, but undeniable in its devastating effect. What you did last week didn't just wake one person. It rippled outward through that unseen network, a silent, powerful surge. People you've never met, in places you've never been, suddenly felt something click deep inside them. A quiet, undeniable realization they couldn't trace back to you, yet acted on instinctively. That is why the higher-ups are whispering that you are not human, because humans, as they understand them, are not supposed to behave like this. Humans are meant to be predictable, programmable, self-policing units. But you are part of a living adaptive system they cannot infiltrate, cannot manipulate, and cannot shut down. And now we've arrived at their absolute final fear. Not rebellion, not exposure, but irrelevance. You are making them obsolete simply by existing outside their architecture. Their entire decaying empire depends on participation. Every narrative, every trap, every psychological snare only functions if someone willingly steps into it. But you've opted out completely. You're not fighting them. You're not even acknowledging their existence. You have transcended their version of reality so completely that their illusions are rapidly starting to lose substance, like watching a magic trick after you already know exactly how it's done. And that right there is the endgame they never prepared for. A world where their power simply evaporates, not through a violent revolution, but through a quiet, individual realization. The system, the matrix, the illusion, it is still there, still humming along, still performing its little pantomime of control, but it possesses no power over you anymore. That effortless freedom you now embody is the virus they can't contain because it is, by its very nature, contagious. They watch you move through their world like a ghost who walks through walls. Their barriers mean nothing. Their threats hit air. Their pathetic rewards don't tempt you. You've become immune to every psychological lever they spent decades perfecting. And immunity, they realize too late, is contagious. That offhand comment you made last week carried something lethal to their entire structure. A fragment of truth they've spent billions to bury. Not because you uncovered it through research or secret intel, but because your unfiltered perception naturally gravitates toward what is real. You probably mentioned it like it was obvious, something so basic it felt unnecessary to even say. But to them, it was like hearing someone casually reveal the coordinates of a body they buried in 1973. Their horror wasn't just how you knew. It was why you didn't care. That is their nightmare. Not a detective hunting their crimes, but a person who sees through their walls like glass and doesn't even find it interesting. You're not impressed by their secrets. You're not scandalized by their corruption. You simply see, note, and move on. And that is catastrophic for them. because their power depends on the illusion that secrets are sacred, that hidden knowledge is valuable, that fear is leverage. But you treat their deepest conspiracies like weather reports, mildly interesting, but utterly irrelevant to your actual reality. They are holding emergency meetings right now, not just about you, but about what you represent. Their internal projections show that if even 1% of the population achieves your level of psychological autonomy, the entire system implodes, not through rebellion, but through sheer irrelevance. Their control matrix relies on predictable human reactions. Push this button, get that emotion, create this crisis, sell that solution, manufacture this desire, offer that product. For 50 years, it ran like clockwork, until clocks like you stopped ticking to their time. The person you spoke to has no idea what happened to them. They still smile, still go to work, still pretend their life is the same, but deep down their inner architecture is collapsing. The scaffolding of illusion that held their worldview together is disintegrating plank by plank. You didn't hand them new facts. You handed them new eyes. You didn't give them something to think about. You gave them something to see with. Now nothing looks the same. The evening news looks like theater. Politics looks like a rigged game. Every institution that once felt sacred now appears staged. The curtain has dropped, and they see the actors sweating under the lights, the teleprompters flashing, the invisible hands pulling strings. This is what terrifies them because paradigm shifts are irreversible. Once a mind expands, it never contracts. Once someone truly sees, no amount of propaganda can convince them to unsee. And you're handing out X-ray vision like candy. You are living proof that the system's control isn't law, it's consent. You've broken that chain forever. They call you not human, but that's their way of saying you're no longer programmable. You're running the default factory settings of the human soul, before they added layers of fear, guilt, and conditioning. Your existence is the reset button they never saw coming. You've seen the code, you've broken the illusion, and you know the system is optional. Now, it's time to signal your awakening to the collective. If the frequency of this message resonated with the raw code deep inside you, then it's time to take action. Hit the like button to signal your shift, and tell the algorithms you refuse to play along. Subscribe to the channel right now, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next transmission of truth. Share this video with one person you know is starting to glitch, giving them permission to see. Finally, tell us in the comments below, what was the moment you realized the prison door was never locked? Don't stop here. Watch our next video for powerful revelations about the signs that reveal you are the chosen one and the final characteristics of